Hi everyone. So it's been quite a couple days since I posted up a new video and it was time. So probably tomorrow I'm gonna get my little tie-dye shirt. Probably tomorrow I'm going to get back into my deep dive into the Bible. I have been reading it and I have been taking a lot of notes, but I don't feel prepared enough to put out the message. Um, just because I'm still trying to gain more insight into what the Lord is trying to tell me, and I don't want to give you, the wrong word. So the reason why I'm putting out this video is because I had this feeling of telling you guys that, not a feeling, but I felt it deep in my spirit to tell you guys that I feel like a lot of people are lacking faith nowadays. A lot of people just feel really broken and they feel really doubtful, and they can't allow themselves to trust. And coming from someone who's dealt with a lot of betrayal, a lot of rejection, and a lot of, just doubt, and just not feeling, just loneliness, feeling put aside, and just not feeling loved by anybody, feeling like, like you don't matter, like you could just disappear and it wouldn't matter, right? And you're just lacking faith. You're just lacking faith in anything, in yourself, in your abilities, in your workplace, lacking faith in what you can accomplish, lacking faith in your direction in life. I can 100% understand you. I've been there so many times, and I'll tell you right now, the Lord says that if you just have a little bit of faith, okay, a little bit of faith, the size of a mustard seed, right? And when you ask yourself, like, okay, but I have faith, and it's like, okay, but what do you have faith in? You need to have faith in Jesus Christ, okay? I keep putting in all my videos how important it is to read the word, because I have been following God for years now, and until now, okay, is when I'm starting to really read the Bible from the beginning. And it's just so crazy to me how much I've been lacking, how much I have been missing out on, because he literally, every story starting from Genesis 1 literally shows you how God just blessed every single one of his followers in ways that, God, when he promises you something, he doesn't lie to you. He's not, it doesn't matter if your life takes a detour, God is gonna accomplish it in your life. It's going to be yours, because God already appointed you for that position, right? So it took me I'm kind of upset with myself, because it's taken me so many years to actually try and deep dive into the Bible. And now that I'm doing it, I'm like, wow, God, every time that he gave somebody a word, it was deeply backed up by him coming through. And what I'm trying to say with that is your faith. Where is your faith? What are you putting your faith in? Okay? Reading the word really helps you understand that when you when you get to know who God is, your faith grows, because you just come to learn that God is so reliable. God is reliable. God does not give a word, and he's not fake. He's not fake. He's not fake. And from the beginning of creation, I always say this, we did not just pop out of nowhere. You have thoughts, you have, ideas and dreams, and you have people you love, and I'm sure you have aspirations and things that you've always wanted to do, and things that maybe you never got to do, right? And like those things were not, you didn't live them in vain. You know, people that you lost, like you didn't just lose them and that's it. Like those memories, those people are gone forever to forever be forgotten. No, you know, like God is real. There is a heaven, like, you know, the people that you love, like there is salvation. There is an eternity. So when it comes to faith, like where is your faith? You know? Do you really know who God is? You know, and that's why the Bible says that, you know, there's a very narrow gate for those who actually follow the word, because a lot of people, they don't really get to know God, you know. And when God says like, I never knew you, it's because you never got to know him. You never got to know him, you know, like who he really was, because you spent your whole entire life just living on your own accord, not really like trying to understand what God's purpose was in your, you know, what your purpose was in this life. Because you have a purpose. You have a purpose, you know, and if you spend your whole life just living to exist, or thinking that, you know, just working a 9 to 5 to make money to pay some bills and go on 2-3 vacations a year is enough for you, and then, you know, you live and then you die and that's it, and you lose your family, generations just keep going on, you think that that's enough for you? I'm telling you right now, it's not. You have to accomplish something, get something done in this life. You know, all these people that are still remembered for generations and generations, what did they do? They did something, they accomplished something, they fulfilled a purpose, their purpose. You have a purpose too. You know, you have a purpose. If you're a very strong, opinionated person that, you know, you feel like God gave you a voice, that you feel like, you know, you've always wanted to lead and stuff like that, like use your voice to fulfill God's purpose. And what's that? You know, God wants people to follow him, because the way that the world is going, the world is disgusting right now. It is disgusting what you see online. And I know that everybody that will see this and comes across this will agree with me. It's bad out there, you know? And it's like, what's going on? Clearly the world needs purifying. Clearly the world needs a refreshment, because things are just not okay the way they're going. They're just not. And so that's why it's so important for you to read the word. It's so important for you to start reading the Bible. Even if it's, guys, you don't have to read many pages a day, try to memorize it. That is the misconception that I had. And I always thought like, you know, I don't understand it. I just don't get the Bible. I don't get it, you know? And I never tried to really get into it. So I was never really, I was never really 100% feeling at peace about God, because, you know, I wasn't, you know, having those testimonies of his descendants, right? Of all the people that, not his descendants, but of all his people, all of his, you know, his children. I didn't have recognition of everything that he did for them and everything that they did for him. You know what I mean? And like the relationship of how they all, you know, the relationship that they walked and how they walked with the Lord. So now that I'm like reading it from the beginning of the, you know, the Bible, I'm like, okay, like, you know, it's actually been sinking into my spirit a little different. And I think that that's why there's been an acceleration in how much of my posting. And, you know, it's like God is increasing my faith. And I'll tell you this much, I'm going through a lot of spiritual warfare, a lot. In every area of my life, I am dealing with a lot of spiritual warfare. It's, you know, painful, and you start to wonder and you start to think like, what's going on? And, again, in the word, from the beginning of the word, okay, all of God's most faithful followers, okay, they were regular men. They were just so hungry for God. They followed him. They believed in him. All they did was, make altars for the Lord, sacrifice and honor him, right? And the Lord always promised them, that he was going to provide, that he was going to, give them everything that they needed. You know what I mean? And when you have that type of peace that you just, as you read it, that book comes alive. It does. It really, really does. So, like I was saying, there's so many of you that there's no faith in your spirit. You're hungry. You're thirsty for God. You're at a point where you're at a loss for words. You're at a loss for, just how you're gonna keep going, where you're going, what direction to take. You feel broken. You feel like, what's next? You don't know what to do with your life. All I can tell you is that the second that you hand over your life to the Lord and you start giving your life to God, it's gonna change your life, okay? It's gonna change your life if you really, really, really want your life to change. And that's something that I had to come to terms with, because I was going through such a bad depression. All I would do was cry. All I would do is try to do drugs, get drunk, and try to numb myself and try to pray and hope for life to change. But I wasn't really doing anything different. And if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, like, your life, don't expect different results. When you decide to really be like, you know what, instead of spending my time going out tonight and doing this, let me stay home tonight, make my space real comfy, cute, just just peaceful and warm. Let me make a good space and grab a Bible and a little notebook and some highlighters. If you're a man, I don't know, get a cup of coffee, get your slippers or something, put on some flannel pants and sit down with the Bible and read a verse and read it over and over again. That one verse. Read it, read it, read it. Talk to the Lord like if he's your friend. Tell him, God, what do you want me to learn from here? If you don't get anything from it, okay, go online. Try to get different type of insights into that verse, right? And from there, you're going to interpret what the Lord is telling you. You're going to understand more of what the Lord is trying to tell you, because you yourself, the Lord is going to connect with you. That search of you going after the what the word is trying to convey to you, God is going to speak to your spirit. So it's not really going to take you having to do research to understand what that parable, because God talks in parables. That's another thing. The Lord is he's a storyteller. The Lord is a storyteller. Every book, every verse, every little story, every piece of the Bible is like a story. And a lot of times they are actually out of place. And you kind of have to put them together. And so when you're trying to, get close to the Lord, you don't have to read a lot. You just have to get comfortable. Okay? You have to want it. You have to want it. You have to sit with the Lord. Again, do something different. Instead of going out and trying to fill your spirit with, trash, try to fill your spirit with the word. Put on some worship music. Listen, I know people that used to tell me I don't like worship music. I can't listen to that. And it's like, how could you not like worship music? Why would you not like worship music? But you say you believe in God. But you say that you believe in Jesus. It's not possible. It's not possible. It's just not. Because then you don't believe in Jesus. You don't worship him. You don't. You just don't, you know? So you have to, the devil will try to do anything to push you away from God. He's going to do anything in his power to make you not want to turn to God, to make you not want to pray, to make you not want to listen to worship music. Anything that you do for God, anything that you do for Jesus Christ, anything, listen to his music, spread a word, wear his symbolism on your shirts, on anything, just anything that you sacrifice, that you apply God to your life, it's an act of like worship and praise for the Lord. Like you are giving, you're showing the Lord that you are, you're kind of like putting him, like your symbol, it's like a symbol of like your love for him, right? So when you don't want to do those things, you have to push yourself, because that's the enemy keeping you away from your peacemaker, from your redeemer, from your father. He's trying to keep you away from your peace. He wants you to stay all messed up. He wants you to stay in pain. He wants you to stay depressed and anxious, because he can continue messing with you, because you're going to stay in that deep hole, because he's going to try and take your spirit. He's going to take your spirit, your peace and your joyful spirit. That's what he wants. He wants to ruin you. So you have to get in the word. So that verse today was like, it spoke to me, and I feel like the Lord told me, like, there's a lot of people that don't have faith, but it's because they don't know who I am. So, you have to get closer to the Lord. You have to talk to the Lord. You have to pray. You have to read the word. You have to put God at the center of your life. If you're having marital issues, if you're having issues with your children in school, if your family, you're having health, concerns, your mother, your father, your sister, your grandparents, anybody, they're having health issues or, financial crises, you need to put God. You need to put God at the center of your issue. God can heal your issue. He can solve your issue. He can deliver you from those issues. But you have to open your heart to Jesus. You have to choose to believe in him. He doesn't need you to be perfect. He doesn't need you to be qualified. He doesn't need you to be a perfect person. You shouldn't be ashamed to go to God. You shouldn't, because God already knows who you are. He made you, and he knew what you were gonna do with your life, because from the day that you were born, we are born in sin. We're very manipulative creatures, and God became aware of that the day that Eve chose to sin. And so you shouldn't be ashamed to turn to the Lord. The Lord loves you, and he will never turn his back on you. Is he going to be happy with your actions and whatever you commit to that goes against his word? Of course not. No parent is ever, pleased with his child, doing the wrong things, doing the opposite of what you've taught them, right? Like, you want your child to follow your teachings because you know that your teachings for your child are the best, because you created that child. You know what's best for them. As a mother or as a father, and for those of you that don't have children, if you have siblings, you know what's best for your sister, for your brother, for your, as a mother or father, for your children. Like, you want your kids to follow your teachings. The Lord just wants us to follow his laws because he knows that our laws are pure and that they're going to lead us to a good life. God just wants us to have a good life. He wants his creation to live in peace, not in a Sodom and Gomorrah, which is what we're seeing all over the world. So your faith, if you're lacking faith, if you feel like life is literally a turmoil, you have no peace right now, you're depressed, you're always anxious, you wake up anxious, you're in front of people, you can't talk, you don't want to leave your house, all you think about is maybe getting drunk or trying to find different outlets, to make you stop thinking about things. Maybe you have an obsession with the gym or whatever, and yes, they might seem like healthy habits. However, they might become idols in your life. And sometimes even after you commit to those things, you still don't feel at peace. You still don't feel 100% happy. You still don't feel 100% at joy. I have tried everything. I've tried therapy. I've tried gyms. I've tried mentorships. I've tried venting to friends, substance abuse, drugs and alcohol, different types of drugs, the clubbing, the partying, the bar hopping, I've tried it all. And the one thing that has given me peace has been Jesus Christ. And I know that if he's done it for me, he can do it for you. He can do it for your family. He can do it for the people that you love. Okay? So, again, if you're lacking faith, that just tells me that you need to get closer to the Lord. You need to start reading the word. Okay? Start from the beginning. Start from the beginning. One verse at a time. Every day. If you download the Bible app on the Apple Store or on the Google, the Google Market or something, I think it's called. I have an iPhone, so I wouldn't know. You download the Bible app and they have plans that you can choose, if you want to read the Bible in a year. You can even set up like an alarm for it to remind you. So there's a lot of different methods for you to, go ahead and set that as part of your routine. And so there's really a lot of tools that you can use to get yourself more into the presence of the Lord, because the Lord is always around you. He just needs you to invite him in, I love you so much, all of you. When I was young, my aunt used to always say, like, we're all brothers and sisters. Like, God made us all brothers and sisters. And I haven't always been kind to everybody. I haven't always been a perfect person. I have many moments that I'm not proud of my past. And, but I am a person that if I have love for everybody, and I don't ever like seeing anybody in pain and suffering. It genuinely makes me sad and it makes me feel bad. Even if I've ever had, a bad interaction or whatever, we haven't been friends or something. Like, I don't want to see you going through something. Like, I would want to help you. So I love you, and I just pray that you internalize this message and that you start reading the word, because all that doubt and fear and worries that you have in your life, they will turn to peace. I guarantee you, your life will change. Your life is going to change. Read the word. Pray. Okay? Worship music. It's so important. All right? I love you guys, and I'm going to tune in most likely tomorrow with a Bible study. So I love you. God bless.